Hi, class. What I want to do in this video is just give you a little introduction to the simulation package we're going to be doing in here. I think it's a really neat educational experience. I know I've learned a lot from learning about it and working with it. In order to do that, let me just share my screen real quick here. Where in the world did share the screen go? Oh, there it is. Okay, let me share the screen and then bop over to a little PowerPoint I have here. What we're going to be using, it's called the Foundation Computer-Based Simulation. It's put out by a company called Management Simulations, Inc. They're out of Chicago. They were founded by some DePaul University professors, and they sell simulation packages for training to companies and to academic institutions. They have a huge following both by companies and by academic institutions. I think they are the largest seller of simulations out there for these purposes. They have a whole suite of them. This foundation one I think is nice. It's not overly complicated, but it has all the learning objectives. They have some that are more complicated and they add more complication, but not necessarily more learning objectives. So I think this one you will find challenging enough and still learn a lot from. Now, what's going to happen with this is you're about to become part of a brand new management team that has taken over a company in the electronic sensor industry. You will be on a team of 3 or 4 people. And it's an existing company you'll take over. They make electronic sensors, and sensors are everywhere. A thermostat is a sensor. It takes a reading in a room, and then it flips a switch, either turn the air conditioning on or turn it off. Your phone's full of sensors for direction and things like that. Well, what we do is we design sensors, we buy the parts, okay, and the parts tend to be switches and chips and things like that suppliers make for us. We assemble those parts into our designs, and then we sell them to people that put them in other things like Apple Computer and General Motors for cars and things like that. So that's what we are. We design and we assemble and we sell to companies that then put our products into their products. Now, our objective of doing this is we demonstrate, one, the effectiveness of multi-person teams working together. This is a team activity, and I think you're going to enjoy it. I think team members tend to learn a lot from each other, and it's not always clear exactly what to do. So it's nice having people you can bounce ideas off of. You can use strategic thinking to an advantage. You really have to think about the future here. You have to invest for the future. If you want to do well. And you also have to think about the interaction of all the different parts of your companies. And those are key strategic ideas. It learns and it reinforces financial fundamentals. I've learned so much about cash flow, depreciation, things like that, working with this. We understand the overall interaction and impact of various parts of a business on one another. This is not a marketing sim. It's not a finance sim. It's not a production sim. It brings all of those different things together, a little bit of each, but shows how the key is they have to work together. You grow an awareness of competition. Your team is going to be competing against 5 computer teams. Now, the computers are not perfect. They are far from perfect. They set them for about the middle for being, expert or being complete novice that you're going to be against. So they're going to be decent competition, but you can beat the computer teams. And what's the best thing for you to do? It's hard to say because it's going to depend on what the computer teams do. In the end, you take away practical know-how to improve your understanding of business. And that idea that the best thing to do is not clear is kind of the way the real world works. We try to make the best decisions with the information that we have. A big wild card in this one is what the competition is going to do. Now, why do we simulate? There's a couple of different ways that people have often done applied exercises in this class. One is to use cases. And I think cases are great. Companies, a big thing that they used to do, and they could still do, is if they think someone's on their way to be an upper level manager, they would put them in some unit that has profit and loss responsibilities. Well, the nice thing about simulations, at least as part of that, compared to those other 2 things, is one, it's risk-free. If you guys work hard at this and you get all the stuff in you need to get done and you do the individual exercises and you work to come to for your team, you're going to get a lot of points for this. All right. And many of you will get a lot of points because your teams are going to do really well also. If this was a company and it was profit loss responsibility, you make some mistakes there and people are going to lose their jobs. Another thing I like about this is you see the results of your actions. You come up with a plan, you execute it, and you adjust. Um, Often with cases, the team says, here's what our plan is, and then everybody claps and they sit down. And that's great, but they never really have to put it into action and live with the results. I do think it's somewhat palatable. You won't agree with me early on, but I think you'll see as it goes on that it's not that complicated. Whereas if it was a real world thing, it would be very complicated. It also compresses time. You are going to individually do an exercise which allows you to play the game by yourself against the computer. Then you're going to come together as a team and you're going to do 3 rounds, and rounds are like years in simulation, in the simulated world. Those are going to be 3 practice rounds. After that, we're going to reset the sim back to where it was at the beginning, and then you will do 8 competition rounds. So a lot of opportunities to make decisions. Now, the playing field. These are all medium-sized companies. The market's dominated by a handful of firms. There's no outside competitors or substitutes. It's a pretty benign environment. I'm not going to throw pandemics at you, or recessions, or big new entrants, or anything like that. There's still going to be enough enough unknown that I think it's a good exercise. But in the end, I don't think it's going to be that daunting. Now, the companies you're taking over are going to be identical at the start to the different computer companies that they're going to be playing against you. Think of it like it is a highly regulated industry, like the airline industry was. If you knew this back in the 60s or 70s, airlines were told where they fly, they were told how much to charge, all this kind of stuff. And all the airlines made money, but they were all pretty mediocre. And that's where you are right now. When you have these new management teams like you coming in, it's like when the airline industry became open to competition. We're going to get a lot more activity going on, and you're going to have to work to make sure you continue to do well and ideally do better and better. Now, again, each team is going to play its own game against a set of computer teams. Your team is going to be Andrews Inc. You'll have 3 or 4 people on the team, and you will play against computer teams Baldwin, Chester, Digby, Erie, and Ferris. All the companies are completely identical at the start, and each company currently sells one type of sensor, and all of those are identical to each other. Now, your management team will have to make decisions for your firm going forward regarding things like research and development. Are we going to develop a new sensor? Are we going to get rid of a sensor? Are we going to change our existing sensors? Production levels. How many should we produce? Your forecast is going to be a big part of that. How big should our assembly lines be? How automated should the assembly lines be? Marketing and promotion. Are we going to spend money to make people know that we exist and our products exist? Are we going to spend money on salespeople so people find it easy for us to work with and that they can buy from us? And then financing, policies, and alternatives. How are we going to pay for the investments that we want to make? How are we going to make sure there's enough cash on hand? And also, how are we going to get rid of a lot of the money once we start to get more and more money? Now, we're going to start with various individual assignments to get you familiar with the sim. We'll then have the 3 team practice rounds. Then I will set the sim for 8 years. I'll reset it to back where it was the beginning of the practice rounds. And the team will make 8 decisions. In each decision, the environment will build as you go. At the end of the decision rounds, you'll receive points for your team's numerical rank in your industry, your individual and team completion of various exercises, and your participation based on input from other members of your management team. The simulation is web-based. You upload all your decisions and you download all your results from the Capstone website at www.capsim.com. Each individual student needs to register, and it's $54. That's a lot less than they charge their corporate clients. And I know it's still a good bit of money, but it is a neat learning tool. The website is very well supported. They have real people And I know their headquarters are in Chicago. They have online support centers, online tutorials. You can email them and they'll get back stuff. You can always email me too, and I'll do my best. I'm going to be just having a left hand for a while, but I'll do my best with responding to you guys. There's conferencing areas, ways you can email your team, things like that. Now, again, there's two important things to understand with the SIM. One is the mechanics of uploading and downloading. And a way you can think about the game you're going to be playing, you're going to be on a team called Andrews playing against these computer teams. And here we can say maybe is the CAPSIM website. You can get information from that and you log on to that. All the computer teams are set to an average skill level. They're not killer teams and they're not pushovers. The decision supportware that you're going to be using to make decisions is foundation.xls. It's an online spreadsheet, basically. It's designed to emulate an ERP system like SAP or PeopleSoft. And you go in, you learn more about what's going on in the SIM, you make decisions. It allows you to see decisions flow from one functional area to the next. What you will do is each of the team members can download or open up this decision support software. It's key that you communicate on these things. You'll learn about the SIM. You make decisions in the software, and then the team uploads those to the Capstone website. Okay? You can upload a zillion times. Teams can write over each other, stuff like that. And you coordinate and you talk about what you're doing. And you can see what's in your official file out here. And I'll talk more about that when I do a practice round. But then when it comes time for the SIM to run for that round, it will run. It will compare the decisions you made to the computer teams. It will push us on to the next round based on the outcomes of your decisions. And then when you open it up again, you will be in the next round of the simulation when you open up the ERP system. Okay? Now, the other important thing to get into is this virtual world. A lot of people are like, well, this isn't like the real world. Well, there's no two real worlds that are the same. There's no two real worlds that are the same, all right? This simulation is inspired by the real world. Our job is to learn this environment, just like we have to learn whatever environments we are at in our jobs and in the places we work or businesses we want to start. Now, one important thing are the product attributes. We can't change everything about our sensors, but a few things we can change that customers are interested in. One or two things come under the heading of positioning. One is the physical size of the sensor. How big is it? Some customers want very small sensors. They're putting them in a Fitbit, let's say. Other customers, they don't really care. They're putting it in this classroom, that we're in. And, for a motion detector or something like that, when you're in the classrooms, you'll see they all have those. Don't really care how big it is physically. Performance is the speed of the sensor or the accuracy of the sensor. One way to think about it is how quickly does it make a reading? If it's a thermostat and it makes a reading every 5 minutes, no big deal. If it's measuring somebody's heartbeat in an operating room, you'll want it checking a lot more than every 5 minutes. Reliability or quality, that we're going to measure by something called the mean time between failure. How long on average will it take for the sensor to break once we flip it on? Some customers care a lot about that, some not so much. The age of the design is not how old the product is since it was made in the assembly line, but how old the design is. Is it the latest and greatest iPhone, or is it, the last generation that they're still selling? And then there's the price is going to be important. Now, these product attributes the customers want are really going to become evident when we look at the two niches or two segments that are available to the market. The low-tech segment starts out as 70% of the market. The high-tech is 30%. The high-tech market grows faster. And you're going to be doing exercises which reinforce all of these ideas. Low-tech customers want different things than high-tech customers. Low-tech customers really want a low price and a decent product, okay? High-tech customers want the latest and greatest, and they'll pay a premium price. You're starting out with one product identical to everybody else's that's kind of in the middle. It's surviving because it's the only show in town. They're all identical. Over time, what I see successful companies do is they have one or two products aimed at the high-tech segment or one or two products aimed at the low-tech segment. And they get to know those segments very, very well, and they build a product that the customers want that they can profitably sell to them. Now, the functional areas you're making decisions in, again, are R&D, production, marketing, and finance. We're also going to have like two consultants show up, one in human resources, one in total quality management. And these are other things you can invest in. Those will start in later in the sim, but they're things you can invest in that can help you can get an edge in the marketplace. One important document is called the Foundation Fast Track. It comes out after each round, and it's like a newspaper that gets generated by the results of the round. Step 5 in the Getting Started handout that I'll show you in a minute is to take a look at it. You might even want to print it out. It's the one that we're going to be using for the start of the practice rounds and then the start of the real rounds as well. It's like, again, a business magazine that lets us kind of know what's going on. Let's look over the Getting Started document, or Kicking Off with CAPSIM, that I have out on e-learning. Now, this goes step by step, the things you need to do to get going with this thing and to learn more about the sim. Good strategies are based on information. These are ways to get more information about the sim and how to do well in it. First thing is to register. Important you do this by Sunday 9/4, or you will lose points. I need you to register because I'm going to put you on teams. I will pick the teams. I'll work to make balanced teams. Okay, your teams. If you're an online student, I'm going to try to put all the online students in teams together, and the people in the classroom in teams together. But even if you're in the classroom, there's a good chance somebody's going to be sick or they're going to be traveling. You're still going to have to use different ways to communicate, and you still might have to have virtual meetings. And you definitely will, because I have several decisions scheduled for virtual weeks where we don't meet as a class. What I then encourage you to do, look around the website a bit. This one you need to do by 9/4. I need you to get down to step 7, all right, by 9/13. The dates are all in the syllabus, okay? The first official team meeting is going to be 9/15, okay? What I need you to do is get those in by 9/13. Get all, you're going to have this done by 9/4. Let me see. Actually, I'm going to do it a little quicker than that. By 9/5 at noon, if everybody gets signed up, I'll be able to have you on your teams, okay? Then what I want you to do is use this, how to message people, message your team, set up a virtual meeting between 9/6 and 9/13, just to say hi, just to get to know each other. Then I want you to watch the introductory video tutorial and quiz. Do this online rehearsal tutorial. To do this well, it'll take a good hour. And then look over that fast track. Then do the situation analysis. This is going to take you, here are the directions, it will take you probably a good hour at least to do as well. Work to learn from these, okay? Read the team member guide is always a good thing to do. I will go over what a practice decision might look like at our high flex meeting on 9/14, and then you'll have time that day to meet with your teams and make your first practice decision. Okay. Rest here, I just have some thoughts, some tips. Not a bad idea to scan through these. I have some information on how we're going to measure performance. And what else do I have? I have some hints on how to put together a high-performing team and what the peer evaluation dimensions are going to be. Super important that you work to come through for your team in this. If you're, do these things and you're still, lost after a few rounds and you don't know what you're doing, talk to me. We can do a WebEx, stuff like that. That usually turns a lot of lights on. Work to come through for your team. Super important. And that's it. Again, the key here, I think, for the simulation, for now, individually, dive into this. Do set up that meeting with your team to say hi, and let me know if you got any questions. Okay. Let's see. I need to stop sharing, and I need to stop recording. Thank you.